Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Scott McFarland, who is the CEO of Honor Credit Union. Scott has been the CEO of Honor Credit Union since 2008, and he has been working in the credit union industry since 1989 after his mom got him a job as a floating teller while he was in college at a local branch in his hometown. So yay moms out there. Yeah. Scott's years of experience at credit unions provide him with a unique perspective on all areas of credit union mission, and his commitment to the philosophy of credit unions is not just spoken but demonstrated in the work he does each day with his team, members, communities, and the movement. Scott has his BA in economics and management from Albion College and an MBA in management from Saginaw Valley State University. Scott remains thankful for mentors, peers, coworkers, and family that have and continue to teach him new things all the time. And please welcome Scott McFarland.
Thank you. All right. Can y'all hear me? We good? Is it up high enough? All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are we doing? Good. Well, I know you came to hear me speak, but I got a question for some of you, so I'm going to start that way. So, equity connections. We're not going to talk about the economy today because I got my bachelor's in economics, and I don't know enough about it to tell you. I can tell you this. I was talking with Rob a little earlier. We know there's economic stuff out there. You guys can read it. It's fun. Have a good time. We're going to talk about equity connections because in the end, when I do classes, I'll teach maybe high school classes once in a while. I'll stop in and talk about who runs the economy? Who makes the economy work in this country? People. So we're going to talk about people. And equity connections are something, it's a term I coined a long time ago. Now some of you are like, oh, I know what he's talking about. This isn't an aha moment, it's a challenge. So I'll challenge you today when you leave to try and engage in some equity connections going forward. So quick question. Denny, sorry, we talked earlier, so you're on the list. What made you want to get out of bed this morning?
Wow. Well, the dog crawled up on my head.
Okay. The dog on my head.
The real answer is that I wanted to come here and have the opportunity to experience it. So.
People. Let's see. Daniel, what got you out of bed this morning?
That's a loaded question.
I know. I like taking risks. I don't jump out of planes. I don't deep dive.
Our foster daughter climbed in our bed, and there wasn't room for three of us.
I like it. So when we're talking about equity connections, here's the thing. So often we get up and we go through our day, and we greeted each other this morning as, hey, how's it going? How's your day? Everybody, it's a typical answer. Oh, it's good. I'm busy. But how often do we think about what got us out of bed this morning and why we're here? Oh, maybe I got the wrong clicker going the wrong way. Oh! So what gets you out of bed in the morning? What gets you going?
Look at that crew.
And I have to remind myself of this every day. So I'm going to tell you straight up, I am not an expert at this. Equity connections is a process and a plan. It's something that you have to keep doing every single day. It's practice. It's like sports. You got to keep getting good at it. There's a value here, right? So that's some of my team a couple weekends ago in the polar plunge. Great time. I was really thankful that morning that it was sunny out. But each one of those members, we have an equity connection. So the goals is, I'm going to tell you about equity connections on my side, and then I'm also going to tell you about how we've implemented that and how it works within the organization and our goal within the organization. Because the old adage, everybody, what's your strategy? What's happening? What's your mission? All that's great. But who in here, who's ever heard of Peter Drucker? Raise your hand. Yeah. And his famous quote, I believe it was Peter Drucker, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So every single day we're working. Equity connection. So targeted takeaways. Here's the thing. We're going to go after this. So it's nice to meet you. I'm glad to be here. I got to catch up with some of you ahead of time. I got to catch up with Sean. He's got a sweet jacket on. If you haven't seen him, I'm calling it out. You're looking good today. Assume the positive. So how many times inevitably you walk into a room and you make a judgment about somebody right away? Does that ever happen? You ever feel like that happens to you? Like, oh, right away you're making a judgment. Okay, this is going to be good. Some of you thank me for being here. I said save it till after it's over because I don't know. here's the thing. Assume the positive. So too many times today, especially in today's world, we go in with this assumption that we know who this person is by the way they're dressed, the way they look, the first thing they say, maybe the color of their tie. So assume the positive. Oh, that sounds easy. Try it. It's not easy. I work in financial services, but I work in people financial services. I was talking to Jeffrey. Credit unions own like 7% of the financial services market. That's it. It's a tiny little bit. So we need to know that it's about the people. It's a cooperative. So assume positive. Find the connection. Okay, what's the connection? Find the connection. We're going to practice that a little bit. I actually had this happen to me 2 times this morning while I was here on finding the connection. Assess the connection. So let me tell you this. Not every connection is going to be an equity connection. Some's just going to be a nice to meet you, great to know you, have a great life. Maybe it's just a business relationship. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. However, you won't know unless you assess the connection ahead of time. Build the equity. Build the equity. What's that mean? Come back to that in a minute and feed the connection. So, equity. Let's go. Freedom from bias or favoritism, or the money value of a property. Take money out and just say maybe it's the value. So in the equity portion of this, it's the value of the individual you're interacting with. What are they bringing to the table? Not what can I get from them, not what are they worth, and then the connection, but the act of connecting, the state of being connected. Oh, I'm connected. I got Facebook, I got Twitter, whatever it's called today. I got Instagram. I don't have TikTok. But that's a different kind of connection, isn't it? In a world where we have more ways to connect than ever, the challenge with equity connections is we can be more disconnected than ever. That's a challenge. It's a challenge for me every day. So when I coined this term many, many years ago, and then when the aha moment, like, hold on a second, there's a transfer of value both ways. It's the unselfish part of it. How can I learn something more about someone that brings the value of that relationship up rather than just me getting something from it or them getting something from it? So I'll do a little quick here. These individuals standing with me, I consider equity connections. We got to go to a thing together. Here's the thing. The individual in the middle, I see him as the dad of an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old that wrestle. He lives in Brighton, and there are these gnarly little kids that are actually really pretty impressive. The guy on the left, well, his daughter and my daughter got married in the same year. One daughter's living at home, the other daughter's engaged. Other people see them as the CEO of 2 different credit unions. Now, I can see them as just the CEO of a credit union, but some people, hey, I have lots of peer CEOs that are just CEOs of credit unions because I don't have an equity connection. These individuals, it was that going deeper, ask the next question. In these individuals here, same thing. There's nobody in any of these pictures that I put up here that I don't have an equity connection with. With these individuals, most of them up there, we share one, where we have a devout commitment to our Lord and Savior. One of them is an individual who travels all over the world, and I talk to him about our Lord and Savior. But in the end, what it comes down to is they're all doing the same thing I am. They're all CEOs. They're all running a credit union. They're all doing that. But in the end, what it comes down to is this is a connection that we have personally. I know about their family. I know about their kids. I know about what's happening in their life. And not because I checked out their Facebook page. How many times, raise your hand, somebody say, oh, you might have seen this on Facebook, but this is what's happening with me. Anybody have that happen to them recently? Yeah. So just tell me what's happening. Let's find out what's happening with people. So, equity plus connections equals a valued relationship. So, here's what I'm going to challenge you on. Equity, understanding their value. Confident in your value. You can't go into an equity connection and say, oh man, I'm not good enough for this. I'm not in the right room. How many times have you walked in a room and thought, oh, this is way above where I should be. I am not comfortable here. Anybody in the room feel that way ever? Like this, what? And then, if you take the opportunity that we talked about earlier and you actively engage and listen, suddenly you realize that the individuals in that room, they're a lot like you. They feel like you. Some don't. Anybody been in the room where it's like, oh yeah, I am in the wrong room because these people all don't want to talk to me. Get out of the room. Life's too short. So with this and how we do this every single day, when we're interacting with each other, whether it's in this room, whether it's when I go this afternoon and work with my team, whether it's when I go to the basketball game tonight and hang out with people that I know in the stands or maybe don't know and want to learn more about, in the end, am I actively engaged? There, the connections, shared, past, present, and future, happened twice today. So do you ask that second question? Have you dug a little deeper? Denny, who I met I was here last time, and my wife Beth over here, who's the only reason I'm here doing this today because she supports me immensely, we're having a conversation today. And we're talking about EOS and all the different things that are happening with that. And then what happens? We have that conversation, a little bit more about yourself. Here's an equity connection. The equity connection is where you find something where there's a link between you. And that link brings you together closer. Denny's wife grew up on a small dairy farm. Did I get that right?
Did.
My wife grew up on a small dairy farm. We all agree, I got a chance to work on that dairy farm, there is no such thing as a small dairy farm. Ever. There's big work on small farms. Equity connection. Talking to Chris from, where's Chris? There he is. Chris is doing some work with my home school district. What are the odds that Chris is doing the work with my home school district? Now, I knew this was happening because our superintendent, who's in C12, who's new that I didn't know until I actually met him through C12 more than I did through the school district. So Chris is working with somebody who heads up this program. Help me. Marketplace chaplains. I had chaplains, I didn't have marketplace. I wanted to say traveling. So Marketplace Chaplains is working in the Berrien Springs School District, one of 2 school districts in this state, in the nation. Chris is working with somebody, his name's Mitch Cummings. Big deal. Mitch Cummings was the athletic director at Berrien Springs when my son was a junior and a senior, helped him do things so that he was trying to get into school and wanted to play a little football. Mitch played a little football. He knew how to do it. He knew some of the ins and outs. He knew that. Mitch Cummings is married, the woman he's married to, I went to school, I knew her mom. You see that connection there? You know that old adage of you're 6 degrees from knowing everybody? Nah. You're a lot closer than you think. So I know Mitch, I know the individual Mitch is, I know the things that are happening there. I now have that connection with Chris. So that relationship, that's one of those that's like, hey, that's an investment that was worth it. How long did that investment take? How long was our conversation? Yeah. So the challenge is, are we taking that moment to engage with an individual one-to-one, face-to-face? There's a two-way value, and it's expandable. This isn't like, oh, now I know you, so what's next? I don't know. Denny and I might not have a conversation again for a while. But I'm not going to forget that his wife grew up on a dairy farm. I'm not going to forget that Chris is working with Mitch, who's helping people have a connection to Marketplace Chaplains when they need it the most. So now what happens? If I say it's expandable, now when somebody says, man, we are just looking for somebody that can help it. We got some struggles in the organization. What do I do? You can participate. I'm not. You can say something. What am I going to say? I know a guy. Or I know a woman. Here's a connection. I was able to do that with Denny today too. Because I got a connection to somebody who wants to start EOS, and he's just going through it. So hey, let me talk. Maybe you two can talk a little bit about it. So it's expandable. It builds. Now some of you are like, yeah, this is like networking. This is sales. Valued relationships are human connections. They're beyond a sale. They present future opportunities, and they extend a value. My challenge would be, maybe, just a clicker. Wait. This is just Sales 101. I got this. Stop it. I know all about this. It's not. Why isn't it? Because in sales and leads, there's a specific target. I've been doing financial services. You heard it. I haven't left credit unions since my mom got me a job as a teller through an equity connection down the road from me. Okay? Sales is something in the financial services, man, that you can chase people off. So there's targets, there's timelines. You got to convey the value of the product. The value of the product. You focus on what you need, because what do I need? I need to hit some goals. Now, I'm not saying anything wrong with goals and hitting some financial targets. But how you get there, there's two different ways to get there. My proposition to you is equity connections are a much more fulfilling and valuable way to get there versus you're just another sale. Now, I could have gone to Denny this morning and said, hey, Denny, I'm sorry you ran into me today. Denny, because I didn't warn him. Denny, I don't know where you do your banking, but it'd be great if you moved it to us, and yeah, maybe we can talk about that sometime. That sounds fun. Pick up the shallowness there of that, maybe. It's a shallow puddle. I want to know Denny. I want to know what that's not why I meet people. I don't meet people to bring them to honor. I meet people because I think there's a value in each and every one of us. Asterisk, some people don't want to participate. Move on. And pray for them. Because missing that connection is a sad, sad place to be. So your equity connection is something you're constantly investing into. It's something, and I'm straight up front, I am sometimes the worst at, I have to practice this all the time. Because life comes at you pretty fast sometimes. You're like, when am I going to have time to ask all these questions of where all these people lived and what they did? If you're engaging with somebody and you see value in them when you walk up to them and you have confidence that you have some value in the conversation, you know what? It slows down. And suddenly you have an opportunity to meet somebody face to face. Equity connections, there's not a target. There's a human factor involved. You're finding the connection and then you're transferring the equity. It goes two ways. It's not a one-way thing. So how do you do that every single day? You're understanding the person and you're focused on the shared connections. It's over here. But why? Why do I want to do this? I don't know. My theory is these are more important now than ever. Because we can lose that human connection. We deal with this all the time. We have 30 offices. I still have people, hey, how many, and you're not in finance, so those of you have, branches are going away, cash is going away, it's all going to become this magical little wonderland out here in virtual land, right? There's going to be a lot of pushback on that. I'm good with that. We have 30 offices so people can walk in if they want to talk to somebody. So the human connection and where it is, is that more important? So now how do we do that when you talk about this? Okay, let's take the business side of it for a second, okay? So the equity and the connection. In our case, how we did is we applied this internally. So what we do when you start work at Honor, so this is a little side of the Honor where equity connections came into play, guess what we do? And maybe you do this too. I want you, please raise your hand. If you do this, when a new team member starts, one of the things they fill out their favorite things sheet. Who does that? Raise your hand high. Come on, don't be shy. You should be proud of this. All right. Jeannie. Why do you have them fill out their favorite things sheet?
Well, we're really focused on making sure that people feel a part of our organization and that they know that we understand them. And so when we have an opportunity to recognize them, we can do it in a way that touches their heart because it's something that they already like, that they already enjoy.
Anybody pick it up on Equity Connection there? Nate, why do you do it?
You explained it really well. So that, ultimately, when you want to recognize them, you can do it personally and recognize that, hey, we've dug a little there, you've provided we can do what's important to you.
what's their reaction when they get something that is from their favorite things sheet?
I just did it yesterday.
Oh,
So I gave each of the team a little totem, like a little animal, and they opened up and I wrote a little poem about them, and they opened it up and they're like, "This is my favorite animal. How did you know?" And I'm like, "Well, when you started working here 5 years ago, you told me." And so it was surprising to them, but it also it let them know that as their leader, that I really care about what's important to them.
Two-way connection. Equity connection. Those people, how many of those people that got the little animal in the poem yesterday are going to look for a new job today? I mean, if they are, like, it's probably a good thing. I mean, they don't need to be there. So what are we doing? So at Honor, we do the favorite things, same thing. So when we have an all team, we have one coming up on Monday. And what we'll do is their favorite candy, and we make sure it matches. So kudos to you that are doing it. If you aren't doing it, think about it. If you want a copy of it, you'll have my QR code at the end. I'll send it to you. You can have anything I show you. We don't have any secrets at Honor. We don't have any. We keep your account numbers and everything secret, but other than that, we don't. We don't really have any secrets. We're a big R&D company, rip off and duplicate. So please, if you have something you're looking for, let me know. The other thing we did on the deliberate part is we started doing this a number of years ago, and I have some different copies of them. And what it is we call it Living I Am Honor. Okay? Too many times as leaders, we think that everything in our head, everybody's just going to know. Oh yeah, we'll get this. Even in equity connections, you don't, when we say dive deeper, you've got to be willing to open up and talk about it. So our commitments, we have 6 commitments that we use. And those commitments are all related to how we take care of each other so that we can take care of our members. Because if we can't take care of our own house, there's no sense inviting people to it. So our commitments run from act with urgency and care, people related. The platinum rule, people related. Cultivate peace and love. That's a financial institution's commitment. People related. Because you didn't see any here, so when I come up and meet you one-to-one, drop the assumptions. Think the positive. You've got to have that built in. And sometimes I think we lose that peace and love theory. It's not the 60s, I get it, but man, it's powerful. See a need, fill a need. People related. Reason over rules. People related. Make the connection. Oh, I wonder where that one came from. Make the connection. People related. So we put that in the book along with many, many other things and our promise to our members. And then this book is an activity book, in case you're wondering. It's like, we fill it out. We go through it the whole day or the whole year. We have Honor Superfans. And part of the Superfan Challenge is getting out. How many? 8 people. Our whole team is expected to do this. 8 people. Go meet 8 people. And one of the questions is, how did they bring value to the conversation you had with them? That's cool. When I started Honor, there were 82 people. We have 450 now. That's not easy to get to know them all. Make the connection. It's a two-way street. Removing assumptions. So there's a thing called Green Path, Red Path. We use it internally. It's from Humanergy, which is a company we work with here in Kalamazoo. They're a coaching firm. And it talks about how you interact with somebody. And the red path is you're working off assumptions. You have preconceived answers. You already know the answer and you're just engaging. I'm just talking to Matt because I just got to get it out of the way. Green path is I'm coming in with an open mind. I'm going to ask some powerful questions. I'm going to repeat that question. I'm going to repeat your answer to make sure we have common understanding. So on the business side of Equity Connections, when you're working with team members, you got to have the green path mentality versus the red path mentality. It's essential. So that is key as you build this within an organization. And then I actively listen. So we've all been we've been in the rooms, right? You're talking to somebody and all of a sudden I'm talking to Matt and hey, Matt, how's it going? Doing all right? Yeah, oh, hey. It happens. Be where your feet are. I heard that from a guy. I don't know who said it. I know who I heard it from. It's this dude that coaches at Colorado. Got to hear him speak one time. Be where your feet are. Actively be where your feet are. And here's the thing, that involves the two-way conversation. That involves the questions that, hey, maybe I'm not asking. So instead of, one of the challenges for today? When you walk out of here and when you go through your weekend, say, what got you out of, instead of like, hey, how's your day going? What got you out of bed this morning? Was it the dog? Was it the foster child? I don't know. But you kept coming. So what is that fuel that feeds you? For me, in Equity Connections, it's people. It's that interaction. It's developed. I grow by getting to meet other people. And then if I know you, that brings value. I am hoping it brings a two-way value. If I don't bring a two-way value, I sincerely hope you tell me, like, Scott, I'm done with you. I got to move on. But that is the goal. All right. How am I doing on time? Pretty good. Okay, here we go. Short story and the connection. Story about Dave, my mom, current connections. So I'm going to take it back a little bit. I've been in credit unions in my whole life, all right? I've had some great mentors. I have been blessed. I have been a teller. I've been a loan officer. I've done a lot of different things. Big deal. Let me talk about Dave. Dave's the CEO of a credit union that I worked for a little while. Why a little while? You see, Dave, I knew Dave when he first sent me a card in the mail when I taught a JA class and it was recognized in a paper. And he clipped the article and he sent me congratulations on teaching JA. It means a lot. What did Dave just do there? He started the Equity Connection, didn't he? I didn't know Dave from Adam. I just knew he ran a big credit union in St. Joe. And I worked for a medium-sized credit union in Buchanan, Michigan. That was kind of cool. So I got to meet Dave throughout the years. What I found out, so raised Catholic, married in a Lutheran church, a little history there. So I'm a believer. I'm a believer. Have been my whole life. But haven't been an active believer. Dave changed something for me. So Dave showed me that in the business world, there is an opportunity to be an active believer. And when those two credit unions merged, that small, medium-sized one in Buchanan and that big one in St. Joe, I got to work for Dave because he was the CEO after the merger. And I got to meet his family, and I got to know him, and I got to see that leadership, that Equity Connection so many years ago. I got to see it in action every single day. Now, during this time, my mom was battling cancer. Okay, so there's a lot of transitioning. I have 4 kids. Thank God I have a wife to take care of them because they'd be terrors in the world right now. So we all have that, right? Life's busy. So I got to work for Dave. This was cool. The CEO I worked for was going to be the number 2 person. I was going to be a VP over member service because I like people. And God had other plans. Because 30 days after we announced the merger in 2006, I got a call from my CEO, who is now the number 2, saying that Dave died last night. Now, some of you are like, how old was Dave? Dave was 50. And that set you back. Wow. Equity Connection that's just gone. Something I was looking forward to. What's going on here? My mom's battling cancer. He passes away, but in the end, and then I go to his funeral. I'm standing at his funeral, and I knew Dave, but I didn't barbecue with Dave. I didn't go to Dave's events. But he had made that connection. I never forgot that thank you card. And I'm standing there at a funeral, and all of a sudden, it's like his kids are singing at his funeral, and I'm like, okay, why? This is not. What's happening here? Because it's... Well, what I realized is that where I was in my life, Dave was a connection to something bigger. My mom passed away 3 years later. And I realized at that point in time that there's an equity connection in our lives. Every other equity connection I talked about today is a two-way street. There's an equity connection that it's one way and it's always there. And it doesn't matter what you show up with, and there's no judgment. It's always there. And there's times in our life when we forget about it. I tell all of my team members I have 3 priorities in life, and number 4 is my job right now because I love it. God, family, country. Now that can be overused. But if I don't keep those priorities straight, it gets scary. It gets gnarly. People don't like me. I don't like myself. So that equity connection that is built between me going through those points when God kind of maybe just tapped you on the shoulder a little and said, that connection is there. I'm here all the time. The only thing I want you to bring to me is yourself. So equity connections, while I coined the term a long time ago, not until I got further along in life and did I have these experiences that I got to see that was really just God's plan. That this connection with people, those connections were built for an opportunity for me to get closer and to become more active. I'm not saying you have to do anything other than talk. So that relationship, that connection is the basis for everything that happens with me. When I talk about equity connections, I'm not coming at you and I don't want to talk to Denny because of his business. I believe that God put me in this room, in this place, in this time for a reason right now. And I'm blessed to be here, and you're all here for the same reason. And where is God putting you next? And what equity connection do you need to make, knowing that you have that equity connection that can never be broken, never be taken away, ever. With that in mind, walk away with this. Assess the connections. What do you have today? You heard me say it. There's some connections that it may not that you're going in, but they may not be that individual. And maybe that's just God's way of saying, this isn't where I want you right now today. Them before me. That's easy to do in today's society. And commit to going deeper. What's that next? Did I see any of that I just described to you when I was going through the loss of a CEO that I was looking forward to working for, or the loss of my mom 3 years later? It's because the bigger picture is so much more clear sometimes when you actually start actively working with God. Not thinking more of myself as in modern cultures or less of myself in traditional cultures. Simply thinking of myself less. Timothy Keller's kind of a smart dude. Finally, I'm not going to read it. It's just something that I work through every day. Because if I can walk humbly with the Almighty, then the opportunity to interact with people and know them better and learn more of the value they're bringing to this earth while God's put them here, I think that's a pretty fun opportunity. So I'm asking all of you, I'm challenging all of you, what equity connections, one, what are you going to ask people when you catch them next time? What got you out of bed this morning? Be prepared because it might be loaded, as Daniel said. You be prepared. You can always say, can you keep it like G to PG rated? Because that'd be cool. What got you out of bed this morning? And then the other part is when you interact with somebody and you talk to them, what equity connection are you building? What do you know about them? What can you learn about them? And then what value is there both ways between the two of you? And it might not be right now. It's okay. What my takeaway is in the end, I do finance for a living. That's the living. I interact and I enjoy working with people because nothing happens in this world without each other. And nothing happens without each other without an amazing Lord and Savior. So I would like to say thank you. I appreciate y'all giving me your time. Only one person walked out, so that's cool. He warned me he was going, so I was hoping he'd throw his knife down and leave. So if you see Nate, just let him know. So, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate being here. I'm humbled, and I look forward to making some equity connections with you in the future if that opportunity presents itself. So thanks so much, everyone. you.